I woke up at 6 a.m., my shirt plastered to my skin like I just run a marathon in a sauna. The house was dead, silent, no hum from the air conditioner, no buzz from the fridge, nothing. My daughter, Lily, 8 years old and already tossing in her bed, kicked off her blankets and whined, "Dad, it's so hot." I stumbled to the window, squinting at the porch thermometer, 92 degrees Fahrenheit, and it wasn't even 7 a.m. The news had been screaming about a heat wave all week, predicting 105 degrees Fahrenheit by noon. This wasn't just hot, it was dangerous. I shuffled to the electrical panel, praying it was just a trip breaker, but everything looked fine. My phone had full bars, so it wasn't some citywide blackout. I dialed the power company, punching in my account number with a sinking feeling. The automated voice chirped that there were no outages in my area, and my bill was paid. My stomach twisted. If it wasn't the grid, and I wasn't behind on payments, why was my house a furnace? I threw on a shirt and stepped outside, the heat hitting me like a slap. Across the street, Mrs. Larson was watering her garden, her sprinklers spitting happily. The Thompsons' porch light glowed, and I could hear the faint drone of their AC. Everyone else had power, just not me. I've lived in Maple Grove Estates for 3 years, ever since the divorce. It's one of those cookie-cutter neighborhoods where every house looks identical, and the HOA rules could double as a novel. The fees are brutal, but I figure it was worth it for Lily's safe place with good schools. I keep my yard tidy, follow the rules, and stay out of trouble. Or so I thought. Lately, I've been getting letters from the HOA about my electricity usage. Susan Reynolds, our HOA president, had decided the neighborhood needed to conserve energy during the summer peak. She sent out notices, nagging everyone to set thermostats to 78 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. I ignored them. My electric bill was my business, and I paid it on time. Susan's the kind of person you'd expect to run an HOA. Mid-50s, white SUV plastered with stickers about property values, and a knack for treating the neighborhood like her personal fiefdom. She's the type to measure your lawn with a ruler and send a violation notice if it's half an inch too long. I'd had a few run-ins with her once for Leah VYing my trash cans out an hour past pickup. Another time because Lily's sidewalk chalk drawings were too bright. But her energy crusade was new. 2 weeks ago, she showed up at my door with a clipboard and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Your house is using way too much power," she said, like she'd personally audited my meter. I told her politely that I paid my bills and would handle my usage. Her smile vanished, and she muttered something about selfish residents before storming off. Now, with the house creeping past 95 degrees Fahrenheit, Lily was flushed and cranky, saying she felt dizzy. Heat exhaustion is no joke, especially for kids. I grabbed her and headed to Mrs. Larson's house. She's a kind, older woman who's been here since the neighborhood was built. She ushered us into her blissfully cool Lee VY-ing room, handing Lily a glass of ice water. While Lily cooled off, I told Mrs. Larson about the power. Her face darkened. "That's odd, Tom," she said. "I saw the HOA maintenance crew near your meter last night." Susan was with them, pointing at houses. My blood ran cold. I called the power company again, this time demanding a real person. After 20 minutes on hold, the rep confirmed my worst fear. My SARE VYC was cut off at 7:32 p.m. the pre-VYS night by a contractor, authorized by the HOA. I called Susan. She picked up on the second ring, her voice syrupy with fake concern. "VYing some electrical trouble, Tom." I cut to the chase. "Did you have my power shut off?" She didn't even flinch. "I warned you about using too much electricity. The HOA has emergency powers to protect our infrastructure. It's in the guidelines, section 12-4. I was floored. "You cut my power in a heat wave, Susan. My daughter's in danger." Her tone turned icy. "Maybe you should have thought about that before ignoring my conservation requests. Sign an agreement to limit your usage, and we'll turn it back on." She hung up before I could respond. I stood there, phone in hand, rage boiling. This wasn't just petty, it was illegal. Cutting utilities without notice? Endangering a child? I called 911, explaining the heat emergency and Lily's condition. The operator promised an officer within the hour. Then I called Channel 5 News, who've been covering HOA scandals all summer. Reporter Emily Carter, jumped on the story. "You're saying your HOA president cut your power during a heat emergency?" she asked. "That's exactly what I'm saying," I replied. "And I bet I'm not the only one she's targeted." By noon, Officer Daniels arrived, a young cop who took detailed notes and seemed genuinely worried about Lily. Mrs. Larson came over out of breath. "Officer, I've been talking to neighbors. Susan's done this before. The Harrisons had their water shut off last month for overwatering, and the Patels lost cable because Susan called their dish an eyesore." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Do you have contact info for them?" An hour later, Emily Carter showed up with a camera crew. She interviewed me in Mrs. Larson's living room, my house now hitting 98 degrees Fahrenheit. "This is a blatant abuse of power," Emily said on air. "HOAs have limited authority, and cutting utilities without notice violates state law." The story aired at 5 p.m., headlined, "HOA President Shuts Off Power in Heat Crisis." My phone exploded with calls from neighbors, each with their own Susan horror story. The Patels confirmed she'd bullied their cable pro VYder into cutting Sayre VYC. The Harrisons went 3 days without water after Susan fabricated a drought violation. That evening, a lawyer named Michael Lee reached out. He specialized in HOA disputes and smelled blood. "Tom, this is criminal," he said. "Utility disconnection without notice is illegal, especially with a kid involved. If she's targeted others, we've got a pattern." He offered to represent me pro bono, planning a class action against Susan and the HOA. The next morning, Officer Daniels returned with Detective Laura Kim and a warrant to search HOA records. We walked to Susan's house. She answered in her bathrobe, her usual smirk gone. "Susan Reynolds," Detective Kim said, flashing her badge. "We're here to review HOA records and communications about utility shutoffs." Susan paled. "I was acting within my authority," she stammered. What they found was a gold mine. Emails plotting to discipline residents, a spreadsheet tracking utility usage with notes like "too high, needs correction," and, worst of all, an email from the HOA's lawyer warning Susan that cutting utilities was illegal. She'd gotten that warning 2 weeks before my power was cut. Detective Kim read the lawyer's email aloud. "Mrs. Reynolds, you were told this was illegal. You did it anyway." Susan's facade cracked. "I was protecting the community. These people are wasteful." Kim didn't blink. "You're coming with us." Right there on her porch, with neighbors peeking from windows, Officer Daniels cuffed her. "You're under arrest for unlawful utility disconnection, child endangerment, harassment, and abuse of authority," Kim said. Susan's protests, something about property values, faded as they led her to the squad car. The neighborhood buzzed. Susan, the tyrant who'd ruled with violation notices and power trips, was done. My power was back within 2 hours, the utility company scrambling to avoid a lawsuit. Lily and I finally cooled off in our own home. 3 days later, Michael Lee called. The DA's charging her with everything. She's looking at 2 years for child endangerment alone, plus fines up to $50,000. The HOA board ousted her unanimously. Her employer, a local realty firm, fired her. The state was reviewing her real estate license. 5 families joined Michael's class action, and the HOA's insurance refused to cover Susan's actions, Leah V.Y. Inger facing massive legal bills. 2 weeks later, Susan stood in court, pleading guilty to lesser charges to avoid jail. She got 18 months of probation, 200 hours of community Sayre VYC, and $25,000 in fines and restitution. The once confident HOA queen looked broken, whispering, $25,000 as the gavel fell. Her reign was over, and Maple Grove Estates felt like it could breathe again. But here's where it gets messy. Was Susan a VY lane, or did she genuinely believe she was SA VYing neighborhood? Should HOAs have any power over utilities? And what about the neighbors who stayed silent while she terrorized Usto? They share the blame. Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you're as shocked as I am, and subscribe for more wild stories. Let's get this debate going.